Everybody keeps talking about equity. Equity this, equity that, equity this. We need to have equity in that. Well, until we can have equity in exercising our constitutional rights, then we have no equity. We need to start there. If you are going to hold a person accountable for a certain set of rules to exercise one right guaranteed under the Constitution, then that needs to apply to every right. So if you have the right to bear arms and you have the right to vote, then everything that you do to purchase a firearm needs to apply to what you do when you vote.
What's your name?
What?
What is your name?
Tony!
Fuck you, Tony!
What's your name?
Ezekiel!
Fuck you, Ezekiel!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Hey, you know what I did last night?
You better not bring my mother into this!
You know what I did?
You better not!
I put that fire over there.
Oh!
And I fucked your mother next to it.
Fuck you, Ezekiel!
Fuck you!
Fuck you! Welcome back, everybody! I hope that you all had a wonderful Easter weekend. And, fuck you, Ezekiel! Why you starting shit? Anyway, I saw that little clip at the beginning this week, and it made me laugh hysterically. I must have seen it at least 5 or 6 times. Oh, it cracks me up every time. I hope that you all like it. I hope that you all will stick to the end of the video. Jeep person! And watch, there's another I think just as funny version of that one. I'm going to put that at the very end, so you have to stick to the end to see that one. So it's been a pretty interesting week. Baseball started up, and of course, MLB gotta be freaking woke. They wouldn't let Joe Biden throw out the first pitch. Actually, that wasn't MLB that did that. That was actually anybody in the White House with a semblance of common sense was like, dude, Joe, seriously, you can't throw out the first pitch at the Washington Nationals game because you're going to look like this idiot.
Dr. Fauci, when you're ready, it's your pitch.
That's what happens when MLB gets woke. They put Dr. Fauci up on the mound, and I think he took out the first baseman with that pitch. I was like, yo, Doc! The guy squatting down, all the gear on, throw it that way. Trust me, the batter ain't trying to steal first. You got no business throwing it over there. So, in other MLB news, the MLB decided to change the All-Star game. They pulled it from Atlanta, costing Georgians, hundreds of millions of dollars by not going there in merchandising and restaurants and hotels and valet parkers and manicurists and face painters, ticket sales, all of that. You don't understand. There are people that just set up little booths. Whenever the All-Star game comes around, maybe you want to go down there. The girls like to have the little face painting of their favorite team on their cheek. You have people setting up booths for that. People selling merchandise, selling gears, So the MLB just cost Georgia, which just recently turned blue and is certainly a battleground state, just cost them a bunch of money because they wanted to get woke. They're like, no, if you're going to require ID to vote in Georgia, then Major League Baseball isn't going to mess with you guys. Like, that's the dumbest. This is, when I talk about that weird-ass racist attitude, this is that bullshit that I'm talking about. So you think it's racist to require ID to vote. But you don't understand. You're the racist. If you think that black people are too dumb to figure out how to get an ID. And if you do think that they're too dumb to figure out how to get an ID, why are you going to let them vote? Okay, black people are too stupid to know how to get an ID, but we're going to let them vote. What does that tell you about your party? Because you think they're going to vote all Democrat. Well, time's coming, my man. Black people are waking up. You know, they're starting to come around to this whole, you know what? We've been voting for Democrats for like the last 40, 50 years straight, and they haven't done anything for us. So maybe I'm going to break with peer pressure and vote for these Republican guys who are like, hey, you know, if you work hard, we're going to cut your taxes, and whatever you build, you can pass on to your children without them having to pay taxes on stuff that you've already been taxed on. And then when your children have children and they work hard, all of that will be passed on to your grandchildren, and they won't have to pay taxes on what you built, and so on and so forth. Instead, what the Democrats want to do is give you, what do they call it? It's like it's a monthly allowance is basically, I don't know what they call it, like an IBF or something like that. It's some kind of 3-letter acronym that sounds fancy, and it's like, hey, we'll give you $2,000 a month. Okay, then what? What kind of property are you going to buy for $2,000 a month? What are you going to be able to hand off to your children with that $2,000 a month? You know, this is the stuff that really makes me crazy, is that you got these leftards saying, well, we need to give them money, we need to give them money. Well, who's they? Who's them? They always say the same thing. Oh, the black people. You know, there are more poor white people in this country than black people. You understand that, right? Why do you think that all black people are poor? Why, when you think poor people, do you think black people? Because you're racist. So, anyway, yeah, Georgia, they just enacted a law that says that you need to have an ID to vote. And people are citing Jim Crow and, oh, it's racist. No. That was true back in the, 20s and 30s and 40s, when Klans members would stand outside of places to prevent black people from physically walking in to get a photo ID, or they would charge taxes, not really taxes, but they would charge more like extortion. Hey, if you want to do this, you're going to have to pay us. So nowadays, you know, any black person can walk into any DMV, basically any government facility, even though Joe Biden thinks that black folks don't know how to get on the internet. You can use your cell phone, get on the internet, and just type in DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, or some states call it the MVD, the Motor Vehicle Department. That's fine, you backwards fucks, like Arizona. But I lived in Arizona, so I can say that. But look, there's no reason. What was it? I believe it was the 14th Amendment in 1868. Don't quote me on that, because I'm almost 30 years out of high school, but I'm pretty sure it was the 14th in 1868 that gave black folks the right to vote. And yeah, most people say, yeah, but with Jim Crow laws and everything like that, they didn't really get it until, 57, I believe, was another voting rights law. But I digress. Black people have had the right to vote longer than women, because any of you mathematicians out there know that 14 comes before 19, and the 14th Amendment to let black people vote was enacted before the 19th Amendment, which allowed women to vote. And now that we let women vote, what the hell happened, y'all? I'm just playing. Okay, so we got the 14th and we got the 19th, and they're like, you can't require ID to exercise those rights. Those are constitutional rights granted to you by the Constitution. You can't require ID to exercise those rights. Okay, well, for you mathematicians out there, what's 14 minus 12? 2. What is the Second Amendment? I don't know when it was enacted, but it was probably before the 14th, since it's numbered 2. But yes, in America, in order to invoke your Second Amendment right, you need to have a photo ID. And in California, you need to have a valid California ID, proof of residence that matches your legal current photo ID. You need to have a real ID, which you have to pay separately for, or an ID that says government restrictions apply, plus a birth certificate or a social security card and or a passport. And you have to pass a written test that proves that you understand what you are buying, which is a firearm. And you have to pay a fee to have that firearm registered. Imagine if you wanted to exercise your 14th and or 19th Amendment right, and they required you to have a valid state ID card with your current address on it. No expired ID cards, current, with your current address printed on it. And it has to be a real ID, or you need your birth certificate and or passport. And they required you to have a background check run that cost, I think it's $25. And they made you pay a service fee of another $25 to have it registered, to have your vote registered. And they required you to take a test, and they charged you to take your test. Would you think that was a violation of your Second Amendment right? Or I'm sorry, your 14th and or 19th Amendment right? So, if we're gonna have amendment rights, then the rules need to apply, I think, equally. If a right is a right, you know, if you have the right to vote and you have the right to purchase a weapon, then the rules should be the same. And honestly, I'm for keeping every restriction on guns. And I know, as a guy who has 4 ARs, 4 Glocks, like 8 deer hunting rifles, bolt action, pump action, I have my mom's .357 Magnum, Ruger, Blackhawk revolver, which is my favorite out of all of them because my mom gave it to me. It was hers. She gave it to me for Christmas. Because that's what rednecks do. You give someone your favorite firearm and then it becomes their favorite firearm. But I'm all for those. I don't mind all those restrictions. I'm not a crazy everybody should be able to buy a gun whenever the hell they want. I honestly believe, hey, you know what? You should have to pass a test to prove that you're not going to kill somebody accidentally. You know, but look, if you need to have an ID to drive a car, which kills more people every year, I don't know, on a magnitude of like 10 or so, 10 or 20 times more people are killed by cars, and what is it, like 1,000 times more people are injured by cars than guns. So maybe make it more difficult to get a driver's license. That doesn't mean state ID. A state ID, you go in, you just prove who you are, you pay $10 and you're done. You know, everybody keeps talking about equity. Equity this, equity that, equity this. We need to have equity in that. Well, until we can have equity in exercising our constitutional rights, then we have no equity. We need to start there. If you are going to hold a person accountable for a certain set of rules to exercise one right guaranteed under the Constitution, then that needs to apply to every right. So if you have the right to bear arms and you have the right to vote, then everything that you do to purchase a firearm needs to apply to what you do when you vote. I don't see any problem with that. I don't see any problem with having a little, even a multiple choice questionnaire before you vote, just like which candidate wants this for you, which candidate wants that for you, or even maybe they should just reform it to where it's blind, to where it says this candidate wants to cut your taxes, wants to put up a wall at the border, wants to, none of this bullshit. This person wants to put up a wall to keep out Mexican people because they're racist. You're like, no. This person wants to put up a border wall. And not this person wants to put up a border wall for safety. This is what this person wants to do. They want to put up a wall at the border. That's up to you to decide if that's what you want. You should have to go and do the research. We need to quit spoon feeding it, everybody. You know, y'all have gone too fucking far. Y'all have gone too far with the bullshit. You got Delta Airlines saying, well, you know, we don't like Georgia's position on IDs. Like, look, you're a corporation. Just fly me to wherever the fuck I want to go. I don't care about your politics. Anyway, I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
What's your name?
What?
What is your name?
Tony.
Fuck you, Tony!
What's your name?
Ezekiel!
Fuck you, Ezekiel.
Fuck you!
Fuck you.
Hey, you know what I did last night?
You better not break my mother into this.
You know what I did?
You better not.
I put that fire over there.
Oh.
And I fucked your mother next to it.
Fuck you, Ezekiel.